Hey strangers, how's it going? I am sitting with you today on a lovely spring March day, putting together a video that I originally recorded in November. I'm kind of trying this out to see if it's like something that I want to continue doing. But if it's any indication, this first little interview I did with Annabelle of Apple Fetch Quest is absolutely spectacular, and I can't wait to share the little conversation that we had. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
If I have a melodica, but I'm not good at it, so we're not gonna.
Oh, I am
that.
not. I have no musical talent whatsoever, and this is not going to sound pleasant. I'm sorry.
I'm excited for it nonetheless.
Here we go. And then I also have. Welcome everyone to the Cute Games Club, where we discuss the history and community of cute games of all different shapes and sizes. Today, I wanted to take the time to celebrate one such outstanding member of the community. Her name is Annabelle. Annabelle? No, that's not correct. Her name is Annabelle.
I actually made that as a pun. When I used to vaguely reblog stupid Hannibal posts. It was Hannibal. So.
Oh my god, her name is Annabelle, and she runs a super awesome Twitter account. Annabelle, I will let you introduce yourself and tell us about the account in question.
Hey, I'm Annabelle, and I run Apple Fetch Quest. It is a Twitter and also a blog collecting apples in video games. Its purpose is very simple, and it's very interesting to see how many games apples appear in. And I'm sure we're going to be talking more about why apples and just the workings behind Apple Fetch Quest itself.
We definitely will. And for those who haven't checked it out, so essentially, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward format, but you just say, there's an apple in X game, and you show a photograph of it, which I think is very important.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You need proof.
Yeah, you can't just make these spurious claims of apples just being everywhere. And to your point, I was also very surprised to see just the amount of apples that show up in games. It's such a weird random fruit, but I guess we are going to talk a little bit more about that. The first thing I want to get is just how you started on, or where were you at in your life, and then how did you kind of come up with the idea of let's document apples in video games?
The first post I made was on April 26th. So around that time, I was playing a few different games. I can't remember specifically the games I was playing, but I was playing games and watching other people play games and noticing a lot of apples. I was like, that's a really weird coincidence that there are so many of this particular fruit. There's so many icons of gaming, like stars and kind of mushrooms, more so that's more Mario based, but certain things that kept repeating throughout video games. I was like, oh, apples. And they have a long history tied into art history and symbolism and Adam and Eve and everything, going way back to that. And it was just interesting that this new art form of video games is continuing this on of using apples quite a lot in various different forms.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, aside from health, have there been any kind of common occurrences that you've seen the apple represented as, or has it just been kind of willy-nilly?
It's quite a lot of willy-nilly, it must be said. Definitely a lot of health items, like dicey dungeons. Usually it's just kind of in the background. It is there for flavor, which is an unintentional pun.
Yeah, it has a nice pop of red color, I think, which...
It does. It's very easy to distinguish. I was discussing this with a friend, and she was like, yeah, well, back in the days when you only had so many colors to work with, apples were very easy to convey with the colors that you had to hand. So that probably has something to do with why
that's an excellent point. To that point, because we're talking about red apples specifically, but have you seen apples of other colors?
It's mainly red apples because that's the kind of the ubiquitous apple. That is the apple everyone thinks of. I believe in Dishonored they're more like purple.
Purple, really?
Purple. Dishonored is a really interesting case because there are two different types of apple in both Dishonored games. And one has the leaf in the first game and the other type has the leaf in the second game. And it's why would they switch that around? It's very curious to me.
That is very curious. Dishonored devs, write in. Tell us what's going on. Who's in charge here?
Also, Fall Guys has its own story that they look kind of like mangoes. They're quite green. And it's this whole thing in the community, it seems like. People are like, no, they're mangoes or they're apples. The file name says apple.
Oh.
But people are like, no, it looks more like a mango. I'm going with apple. It's in the file name, it's apple. It looks like an apple to me.
Yeah, I love that people were like, so this was like such a point of contention that someone was like,
sure.
let's get into the code and get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, like, and then the social media manager for the Twitter seems to have kind of stirred the pot a little bit. So like, hey, check out this potato, and everyone's like, no, no, how dare you?
That's such fantastic, 2020 energy. And that's really the kind of dev that I aspire to be personally. I love that for them. That guy should get a raise because they know what they're doing.
Yeah. One person in my mentions who was like, hey, this is what they're saying on the Twitter. I'm like, but I know what I know. I know about the apples.
I know what I know. Fabulous. Well, actually, like to the point of the inspiration, and you're just started noticing a lot of apples. I mean, I guess I should point out, and I'm wondering about this because around the time that your account started, there were like a couple of other pretty notable accounts like documenting a certain item in video games. There was Jess Morissette runs the Soda Machine video game project, and of course, there's like the crazy popular the Can You Pet the Dog account on Twitter, and were those
idol?
Yeah, yes, that's the dream right there. I mean, you really can't beat that one, but we all aspire. But yeah, were those kind of figuring into like, oh, maybe I should do one of these, or was it kind of a separate inclination?
I was definitely aware of them. I didn't want to like fully copy them, but also I was like, it's definitely a separate enough concept.
For sure.
You know.
Oh yeah, I'm not. This is not an accusatory or anything. I just want to be perfectly clear.
No, that's fine. It's more like. Oh, I started the blog, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make this different. I'm gonna like put cute captions and stuff and make it real different. And now I'm like, the Twitter side of things is easier to kind of convey and it's easier for people to pay attention to. So it's way easier that way.
So you did, just for the listeners who aren't aware, the blog started first. I think there was a WordPress and a Tumblr blog, and then it kind of transitioned into Twitter. A little bit earlier this year. Was there just like is it easier to kind of manage that way you kind of moved it over?
It's easier to manage, it's easier to kind of keep a track of. It involves less effort on my part, which makes it sound like, oh, I don't want to give my heart to this. No, I do. It's just, it's scheduling and writing the posts weeks in advance. It's like, okay,
of course,
I can just go to Twitter and be like, okay, here's an apple. And also the reach is better. I was talking to someone in Discord server, and they were like, you should make a Twitter account for it. I feel like more people should know about this, and Twitter is the way to go. So I followed their advice, and I was like, all right, cool. And it's paid off. There are a lot more people checking out the Twitter than the blog, which I'm happy about.
And yeah, no, that makes sense because I honestly don't remember how I encountered your account. It might have been the Wholesome Games Club Twitter. Or the Discord, but I think I did find you on Twitter, so it's paid off for sure. It tracked. Not that I'm saying, this you've made it here, being on the show. Nobody listens to this. Have you had any like cool community interactions since you've been getting kind of more eyes on it, or if you want to walk us through that?
A couple of developers have like sent me screenshots of their games. The one I'm thinking of right now is a developer, Wilmot's Warehouse. They sent me a screenshot saying, hey, there are apples in Wilmot's Warehouse.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you for the help. Very much appreciated.
I'm sure it is. And now I'm trying to think of like, now I'm just literally searching my memory for apples in video games. Like, what can we tell her? Oh, that's a great question. How many apples have you documented so far? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know a number. I'm going to say about 100. Probably not all of them on the Twitter yet, but I have a big folder of apples that I am ready to share.
Oh my goodness.
So, I think quite a few.
What is now that's a great that leads into like what is your process of documenting all these apples? Because I mean, like we see like the posts that happen every couple of days or every week, but like getting into a game, looking for an apple, screenshotting it is a lot of work. So how is that process for you?
Quite often I will be checking out games on Steam that I'm like usually ones I'm already interested in, and I'll go, okay, is there a chance of apples in this? If not, I kind of put it on the back burner. Like Borderlands is one of my favorite games series.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, there's probably not going to be that many apples in it. Turns out there are a couple of skins for a character with apple in it.
Really?
But say I was coming across that on the Steam store now, I'd be like, I'll get to that later and see if it happens. Some games like farming games are very common apple
For sure.
sources.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay, there's probably a good chance of apples. If it's a mobile game, I'll look at the screenshots and such and see if there are apples in that. I can be like, okay, cool. I get an apple from that. Yeah, it's there's definitely some cases where I found a game and I'm like, I know there's an apple in here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And I have to play through until I find the apple and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good.
I love that it sort of lends credence to it. Really is an apple fetch quest. You were you were kind of going in blind and you were actively looking for an apple.
Absolutely.
It's
also just a really fun game in a game. Like, I'm enjoying the game, but also I'm like, ooh, if I find an apple, this is going to be great for the post.
I love kind of giving yourself that extra goal. It's yeah. Oh gosh.
Plus, I have friends now like sending me screenshots like, "Hey, I found an apple in a video game for you." I'm like,
really?
"Oh, thank you."
I love that.
So sweet.
So I mean, I don't think anyone's going to like. We don't have a crazy community here, but I'm supposing that you do welcome people like sending you apples
Absolutely.
in games.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Please send me apples and where they're from.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna do a quick pause because we do have some listener letters here. Wait. Listener letters. Let me open this up. Thank you. All right, listener letter number 1. This is from Stu the Strawberry at Strawby and Sobby on Twitter. Dear Cute Games Club, thank you for reading this letter. I'm a longtime listener and fan of the show. Thank you for watching, Stu. And I am also a strawberry. Since you are interviewing Annabelle, creator of Apple Fetch Quest, I decided to write in to ask if Annabelle was considering ever exploring other fruits in video games, such as, just off the top of my head, strawberries. I know we strawberries have our seeds on the outside of our bodies, which is kind of gross, but we have way more seeds, and we are very delicious in cakes and salads. What do you say to this, Annabelle?
Oh my gosh, I'm convinced. I'm now like, what am I doing with apples? Strawberries are clearly the way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have considered other fruit, and I feel like if I were to do other fruit, strawberries would be quite near the top. Because they appear in... I can think of quite a few games that they appear in. Again, like farming games, they would appear in a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think strawberries up there is a strong competitor.
Definitely.
Just off the top of my head, like I think, I mean, Japan has like a huge video game culture there, and like one of their big fruits like is the strawberry. It's a really
oh my
popular fruit
goodness. Yeah, I'm thinking like Stardew Valley. All the classic farming games. There's strawberry items in Animal Crossing, I believe.
Oh yes.
Not strawberries themselves yet.
Really?
I don't think so. So
That's
far,
shocking.
it is peaches,
Yeah.
pears, apples, cherries,
Mm.
and I'm absolutely forgetting one that comes on the trees. I'm so sorry. I'm letting every other fruit down.
Well,
Did I say apples already?
you think you did apples?
God, if I forgot apples, that'd be embarrassing.
Well, yeah, no, I mean that probably makes sense because most of the fruits in Animal Crossing are like tree bearing fruits.
Yeah,
Fruit-bearing
and, like,
trees?
They recently released pumpkins, which are ground based.
They don't grow on trees, do they?
No.
Okay. This is
Also coconuts.
Coconuts, of course. Coconuts.
Gosh.
Love to see it. Yeah, okay. Wow, no strawberries. That is truly shocking
strawberries.
for Animal Crossing.
I was gonna say, I love strawberries. They're really good.
They're
I'm
fantastic.
getting more into strawberries nowadays, so I'm like, ooh, that'd be very tempting.
Yes.
Just documenting fruit in general in video games would be curious, but then you don't want to open the scope too wide, because it's
Right.
like, okay, everything constantly counts, and you just don't know what you're doing with it. It's all over the
Absolutely.
place.
Is there a fruit? I mean, you must have encountered, I think, other fruits just because of the important work that you do. Is there like a fruit that you see not as often as you would expect? Like you'd be surprised whenever that fruit would appear.
Honestly, most other fruits, like if it's not a game where fruits are being focused on, so for instance, the couple of Fall Guys games that have fruits in them, farming games, those all tend to have an even mixture of like what we would consider like fruit basket fruits, like apples and grapes and bananas and oranges and pears and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You don't see a lot of like durians or dragon fruit. Those are a lot more specialized. So I think it's very much informed by how common the fruit is around the person who's developing the game. So not as many bananas as you'd think.
Wow.
Like, you say bananas in video games, I think Donkey Kong. So
yeah, no, Donkey Kong, he definitely he owns that space, the banana space. All right, our second listener letter is from Karamo the Caterpillar, just Worman78 on Twitter. Dear Cute Games Club, very excited to write into the show. I wanted to personally thank Annabelle for her tireless dedication to finding apples in video games. Video games, as you know, have a history of being designed by and for humans, and it is very difficult for caterpillars to find the tasty apple-based content they so crave, let alone play games, as caterpillars have no hands. That's actually true. I don't know of any games that have ever been designed by caterpillars, come to think of it.
I would fund that on Kickstarter. I'd absolutely fund that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's I say, Karamo, if you have any like game design chops, or if you and like any bug friends would want to bring a project to Kickstarter, I agree.
Yeah.
There's that beetle that like knows how to draw. That's on Twitter.
Spike.
Yes.
Oh, wait, not Spike anymore. Spike's descendants. Sorry.
Oh, Spike passed away. R.I.P. Spike.
Passed away. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Spike.
Well, get Spike's descendants, and I think you'd have that star power. You have the
Yes. Yeah. Collaborate.
Collaborate. Yes. Well, now I know exactly where to find caterpillar-centric games, and my life is a little bit happier. Thank you very much. And Karamu did send us a photo, so I'm gonna drop that in the chat here. There it is. It's a photo of Karamu. And
Oh my gosh!
getting ready to play God of War, I think.
Oh yeah.
Which
he's gonna nail it.
he is, yeah, very proud of. Does God of War have caterpillars? Does God of War have apples in it?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well,
I feel like there's a definite branch of games I'm missing out on because they're not the kinds of games I'm able to easily play.
yeah.
So the God of War definitely fits in that. I'm like, ooh, there could be. If anyone knows, please let us know. Karama needs to know. I need to know.
Yeah. Well, what
Well,
are
so-
if I can ask, like, what are the types of games that you usually don't get into as often? Because maybe there's people who like to play those games. Might wanna peek in
Fast-paced,
there.
actiony games,
I see.
things that require you to be fast and accurate. Like, I'm very much an artsy narrative, easy game person. And I like it that way. They're really good. But yeah, I had friends sending like Last of Us screenshots, and I'm trying to think of other ones of games I just wouldn't get to playing. Similar vein of like very action, stealth. Not great at stealth. Games like that.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar camp. There's a couple of games that I have to play for research purposes, and it'll just be just hand-breaking, absolute disaster. But yeah, so if you are hearing this and you play those types of games,
Please.
yes, I love that. Well, the last thing I want to ask is, you've been doing this for about a year, just over a year, actually.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of apples, and I'm very curious to know if you have a favorite apple that you have seen in games.
I have a couple.
Oh, yes, please tell us both.
I think the most perfectly apple-like apple is so far in Breath of the Wild. The apples in that game are very, very good.
Oh, what about them are so evocative, do you think?
They just look very pleasant to look at. I appreciate that there's the camera mechanic where it's like you can identify an apple. Here is an apple. You can use them, you can cook them. They're a very versatile item in that game. And they just look really, I've already said it, they look really pleasing. They just look great.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll have to get like some photos of the apples that we've been talking about here, because it's a YouTube show, so I probably should be doing that.
Yeah, I can send you pictures of the Breath of the Wild.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. What is you said you had a couple, so what's the other one?
The other one is a little smiley apple in the Cutie game, which is made by, let me just look it up, Happy Snake. It's part of the museum part of that game. It's a very sweet game, very relaxing, very chill game, and there are just these couple of apples browsing the museum, and one of them is very happy to see you. And there's nothing I love more than something cute with a smiley face on it. So if it's an apple, I love it. Apple with a smiley face, 10 out of 10.
I mean, you make a very good point there. I think probably most of the apples that you encounter are inanimate.
Yeah,
apples.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
Also,
no,
Junimos from Stardew Valley. How could I forget those? I'm so sorry. They're apple shaped. They count.
They are. Oh my god, you're 100% right. I totally forgot. Yes. Does the creator ever acknowledge that they were like apple sprites? I don't know. It's just weird that they are apple shaped.
They're perfect apples. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody really talks about it. It's fantastic.
I don't know. Are we gonna investigate some apple lore? I feel like I only have so much knowledge.
I think you
I'm
are
learning more all the time.
Definitely the Apple expert in video games, which no pressure.
No pressure. Sometimes that's one of the problems. I'm like, I wish I could just Google and be like, hey, is there an apple in this game? But it's like, I can't look up the encyclopedia when I'm the one writing it. Like I can't, this information isn't out there. I'm the one trying to bring it to the world. So
that's
like, all right, I'll do my research.
Wow. Honestly, the immensity of your struggle has just hit me, and I am so sorry.
It's a rough struggle every day to find apples in video games.
Right. Well, again, we encourage anyone who is listening to send in some help, please.
Yeah, please. I would love it.
Well, yeah, gosh, I'm hoping I didn't forget anything, but I think that's probably going to kind of round things off for this small interview. Thank you again, Annabelle, so much for being... Annabelle? I don't know why. I just can't say your name.
It's too long. It's too many syllables.
Annabelle, thank you for being on the show.
I've had such a lovely time.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you want to plug, or like aside from your Twitter account, which we're definitely going to share, is there anything that you've encountered lately that you're just really excited about and you want to tell people? It can be yours or it can be someone else's.
I will say there's one Twitter I want to recommend.
Yeah.
And it feels very much spiritually similar. It's not by any means a Twitter about collecting things. Mm-hmm. It is NFL Scoregami. And it is about unique scores in NFL football games. And that just speaks to me so much. If someone had an idea, specifically John Boyce, who is amazing at writing, mm-hmm. having a specific idea, going, this is silly, I should make something out of this, and following through with it, and actually making it something that people enjoy, I really love that. It's so silly and wonderful, and I love it. It's good numbers, and the Twitter updates like all the time during the season. So if you ever want to know about some numbers, go for Scoregami.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great recommendation. Thank you very much. Is there anything else? Always the pinnacle of these kinds of accounts. Can you pet the dog? Of course.
My idol. My
Excellent.
hero.
Yes.
Also, can you violate the Geneva Conventions in this video game?
Oh my god!
Really good Twitter.
How could I forget about this account?
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes. Can you tell the listeners about this Twitter account?
Okay, it is written by the people at Hard Drive Mag who do already wonderful video game articles, mm-hmm. and it is addressing various Geneva Convention violations that you can commit in video games. Again, that's just like someone had an idea and was like, I'm gonna see this through. I'm gonna make this a thing with a capital T. And I love it.
Yeah, what's so fantastic to me about the Geneva, like, it's not just, it's such a difficult, I think, account to keep up because you have to have a working knowledge.
Yeah, you have
every
to
article.
Know. Like, on a scale of Apple Fetch Quest to Geneva Conventions, how easy is your novelty Twitter account?
Okay, well, yes. If anyone would like to see Annabelle's awesome Twitter, it's at AppleFetchQuest. And you also have a WordPress and a Tumblr, which I think is the exact same...
Yep.
Yeah, the exact same title. So definitely check her out. And
there's
Annabelle...
also a Steam Curator group as well.
Oh, yes! Yeah, I forgot about that. There is, and it's the exact same name.
I believe so. I will send you a link just to make sure.
Yes, I will drop all of these links in the description, of course. Well, thank you again, Annabelle, so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lovely time.
Oh, yay, great.